Okay, we'll go ahead and have you take your seats. And I want to welcome everybody tonight to our forum. I'm Lisa Thornhill, President of the Santa Maria League of Women Voters. And our league, along with the Santa Maria Times, is bringing the candidate forum for our sheriff's race that's coming up in June. Tonight we'll give you an opportunity to learn who the candidates are and ask questions that we will circulate later in the meeting. Just to let you know, the League of Women Voters, we are a nonpartisan political organization. We encourage informed and active participation in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influence public policy through education and advocacy. We believe that if we as the United States citizens, the right to vote is something that we need to treasure and we need to use. We register as many voters as we can so that people have their say and can support their values and others' values through the election system. The other piece that we believe in is that we have informed voters. A lot of times there's a lot of language and information that is hard to understand. We publish information, for instance, pros and cons on different measures, and then we provide candidate forums so folks can get to know the candidates and be able to vote as an informed citizen. The other thing about the league is we reach out to the community. We do a lot of information and registration sessions. We have a lot of information that we have through the state and the national leagues. Coming up for our local league, we have our general meeting in June, and we do encourage everyone and anyone who's interested to join and find out how you can be a part of making a difference in your community. We also have a fundraiser on May 12th. It's at the Civic Theater, and it's called Women Have Curves, Real Women Have Curves. And it's the day before Mother's Day, and last year we had a wonderful time. So we have tickets for that as well tonight. We're very excited to collaborate with the Santa Maria Times again. The information that we get to our community is valuable. And we're also fortunate tonight to have Jennifer Dolan moderate tonight, and she will introduce the speakers, and she will go over our process for tonight's forum. So, Jan.
Okay. All right, thanks, Lisa. Just real quickly, after the meeting, if you guys are interested, we will put these little cards out. It's just got the different websites where you can get the different voter information that Lisa was talking about just a couple of minutes ago. Okay, so let me start with our format. Our format is, I'm kind of the transition person in between basically a more formalized discussion that the candidates are having. And so the purpose of any candidate meeting is basically to allow candidates to kind of have their say and speak for themselves and directly to voters. And so we're super excited that we are also having this recorded, and it will be available on TV so that it kind of the information can keep going on. We do have a timer in the front row. Statement and answer questions are going to be timed. The timer will show a candidate when he or she is down to 30 minutes, or 30 minutes. You guys are ready, right? We're gonna pull an all-nighter. Sorry. A warning at 30 seconds. We're gonna start in alphabetical order, and basically our format just goes an introduction. Each of the candidates will have a couple of minutes to talk about themselves, just kind of introduce themselves to you. And then we will start again with the second speaker, and then they will each have about 8 minutes to talk about their vision, goals, things that they have planned. We will take a break for 10 or 15 minutes. At that time, if you have not yet thought of or come up with any questions, we have some more cards up here. You will be able to turn in questions up to the last maybe 5 minutes of the break. At that time, several league members and I will kind of get together. We'll make sure that we get some questions from each category that the audience seems to have interest in and get as many of them asked as possible. Each of the candidates will be allowed to answer any of the questions, even if it's directed to a specific candidate, or they can pass if they want to. So it's basically just an open format, but also a controlled one. So we appreciate your participation and your patience. I told you that. Okay. I think I told you everything. So now, without any further ado, tonight we have Sheriff Bill Brown, Lieutenant Eddie Hsueh. I've been practicing that one. And Lieutenant Brian Olmstead. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you. All right, so we are going to start with you, Sheriff Brown, to do your 2-minute introduction.
Well, thank you and good evening. I am your sheriff, Bill Brown, and I want to start by thanking the League of Women Voters for setting up tonight's candidate forum. By way of background, I have had a 40-year law enforcement career, more than 22 years of which has been here in Santa Barbara County. I served as the chief of police in the city of Lompoc for 11 years. Prior to running for sheriff, I have served as your sheriff for 11 years, having been elected 3 times. I have a master's degree in public administration from USC, and I'm a graduate of the Delinquency Control Institute, the Northwest Command College, the FBI National Academy, and the FBI National Executive Institute. Some of the major accomplishments that I have been able to achieve in conjunction with the men and women of the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office during the last 11 and a half years of service as your sheriff include delivering on my promise to make the Northern Branch Jail a reality. I was able to work with the state and secure $80 million in state funding for this $109 million project. It's brought hundreds of jobs and millions of dollars in new revenue to the county. And we will have a state-of-the-art custody facility designed to provide enhanced education, programming in substance abuse treatment, anger management, and other life skills. I fulfilled other campaign promises by establishing a merit-based promotional system in the sheriff's office and by bringing back the DARE program that my predecessor had canceled. I expanded the gang and narcotics unit, and I oversaw the merger of the sheriff and fire aviation units. I guided the sheriff's office through the most turbulent financial times in its history. Since 2007, 11 straight budgets that were either declining or status quo, a loss of 90 general fund positions, but not a single sworn member of the sheriff's office laid off. All those reductions achieved through attrition. I've led the sheriff's office through a series of critical events, several despicable mass murders, a dozen major wildfires, the recent Montecito mudslides. And I haven't just focused on local law enforcement.
Sorry, Sheriff, but you'll have your other 8 minutes. Lieutenant Hsueh.
I'd like to echo the thanks from the sheriff to the League of Women Voters, the public that's here, and the audience at home. I have some important thoughts, and I don't want to miss anything. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to read from this. I'm Lieutenant Eddie Hsueh, a law enforcement officer with over 32 years of local experience in Santa Barbara County. I've served the county proudly for over 3 decades. I grew up here in Santa Barbara, and now I live in Solvang with my wife, Tina. We have 4 children together, a grandchild, and 1 on the way. I have the experience, the training, and the energy to serve as your sheriff. Currently, I serve as the chief of Solvang and Buellton's police departments and oversee the law enforcement services at the Chumash Reservation. My wide range of experience includes patrol, community resources, SWAT, records, rural crime, court security, civil, training, and administration. My formal training includes over 2,700 hours of police training. I'm a graduate of the Sherman Block Leadership Institute and plan to pursue a master's degree in criminal justice. Having been assigned to train aspiring academy recruits, as well as officers, is recognition of my experience and skill. And I've been honored to receive the State Assembly and Citizens Council on Crime Awards for superior performance and conflict resolution, as well as the Attorney General's Commendation for Community Programs. I'll bring my long record of experience, achievement, community responsiveness to the office of the sheriff. As a non-politician, I'll bring a clean slate and new energy focused on the needs of our diverse community. I'm proud to have dedicated my adult life to working for safety of the community, and I would be honored to earn your vote.
Thank you. Lieutenant Olmstead?
Okay, thank you. I'm Lieutenant Brian Olmstead, and I grew up in New Cuyama. My father was a firefighter, my brother is a firefighter, and I became a deputy sheriff. How about now? Okay, sorry about that. I'll restate it. Thank you for coming tonight. I am Lieutenant Brian Olmstead, and I grew up in New Cuyama. My father was a firefighter, my brother is a firefighter, and I became a deputy sheriff. Public service is in my blood. I've worked in the sheriff's office for 28 years under 3 different sheriffs, starting as a rookie and working my way up to a management position. I've worked or managed virtually every division in our department, including narcotics, gangs, human trafficking, homicide, IV Foot Patrol, and both North and South County Patrol divisions. I've managed the Civil Bureau and have maintained property and evidence. I've run the Training Bureau, and for 16 years I've taught at the Allen Hancock Police Academy. Along the way, I've earned a master's degree in business administration and graduated from the FBI National Academy. I've received the Narcotic Officer of the Year for the state of California. I've also received various department awards and have volunteered for Special Olympics, PTA, and for the last 8 years have been a Scoutmaster for Boy Scout Troop number 95. I've served as the Emergency Management Liaison and Mutual Aid Coordinator, establishing excellent working relationships with other law enforcement agencies and all the county fire departments. I've also established positive relationships with other agencies and emergency response organizations like the Red Cross and others. I am proud of our department's working relationships with other first responders and the public, but the work needs to be improved at the highest level. We need a new leader who will listen and learn and cooperate with partner agencies and community organizations. As sheriff, I will focus on issues here at home, preventing crime, improving response times, disaster preparedness, and meeting the needs of the mentally ill and people in crisis. I am proud to be endorsed by the Deputy Sheriff's Association and both the Santa Maria and Santa Barbara Police Officers Association, the County Firefighters Association, and Santa Barbara City Firefighters. I am honored to be endorsed by 2 of the county supervisors, Supervisor Adam and Supervisor Joan Hartman. And they don't always agree on many things, but they do agree that we need a new leadership in the sheriff's office.
All right, thank you. So Lieutenant Hsueh, we will be starting with you with the 8 minutes, and it's not, don't feel bad if you only go 7:45 or something. No one gets mad at you. But the same thing will apply. They'll give you a kind of a warning at the 30-second mark.
Okay. I want to address our mission of assuring the safety of the public, crime prevention, improved response time, and improved morale of our public safety personnel. Many challenges must be addressed. I have the experience and commitment to make necessary changes. We have many opportunities to improve, and that's good news. I want to focus on my priorities in 3 major areas: fiscal responsibility, employee retention and morale, and public trust. Fiscal responsibility is critical because the sheriff's budget is one of the largest parts of the county's budget. I'm committed to reducing our costs and the burden on taxpayers while improving the delivery of public safety services. Here are just a few initiatives I'll pursue as sheriff. We can collaborate better with the criminal justice system in many ways, such as implementing a modern electronic system. This would speed up the process with arrest reports to the DA and courts, saving time, resources, and taxpayer dollars. The sheriff's office currently hand delivers arrest reports to the DA in order for the court to hold a hearing for the person arrested. According to the DA's office, 50% of these cases are delayed due to the sheriff's office delay in providing essential information. When arrest reports are delayed, the DA seeks a continuance. That means people waiting to go to court are kept in jail longer, which impacts their lives and at great taxpayer expense. Investing in a modern electronic system would get necessary reports to the DA faster. Another cost-saving strategy I'd pursue that also improves public safety is cost sharing with regional partners. For example, we should be working together towards a regional dispatch center. And this would reduce costs, improve communications between agencies, and result in faster response times and enhanced public safety. A similar opportunity is sharing expensive, specialized equipment. This would save not only the initial purchase of the expense, but also ongoing expenses associated, such as personnel, maintenance, and depreciation. Pursuing such savings would enable our department to be self-funded in some areas for some opportunities that would both reduce the burden on the taxpayers and increase public safety. And that brings me to my next two priorities. I want to reduce our department's unusually high-level employee turnover in order to improve public safety and responsiveness. Right now, retention is a serious problem. Incredible as it sounds, since 2009, we've hired 206 law enforcement officers and lost 210. A recent HR report shows last year 40% of our separations were non-retirement losses, and 72% went to other agencies. And here was why this matters. Rapid attrition costs the department in two big ways. First, recruiting and training new officers is expensive. And second, when we experience staff shortages, to assure public safety, we must resort to having officers work overtime, which is also expensive. Also, too much overtime and resulting officer fatigue can lead to mistakes and accidents. Too much overtime also increased costs of sick time, workers' compensation, and lawsuits. All of this harms morale, which also leads to employee attrition. In the end, losing our valued employees prematurely impacts public safety. We lose a treasure trove of on-the-job experience. I'm convinced we can reduce turnover. Here are some ideas. We can invest more in our officers, including more training, such as how to deal with high-stress situations and people with mental illness, education about gun violence restraining orders, enhanced training on the use of force. We have to do more than what's minimally required. We must continue to find ways to reduce overtime that taxes morale and our department's budget. We need to improve the quality and pace of our recruiting and place more emphasis on recruiting people with roots in our community. We need to work closely with the rank and file to better understand the reasons for our high attrition rates and low morale. And I would also undertake simple low-cost investments to improve the work environment, such as painting and replacing worn carpets. I've seen firsthand how simple steps that show we value our employees improve morale, and their job satisfaction makes a big difference in their willingness to stay. The challenge of improving employee retention is not unique to us, so I'd research and implement the best practices other departments successfully use to address high officer attrition, such as a more robust use of volunteer support. The recent fires and mudslides are a dramatic reminder of the importance of being fully staffed with the right skills to deal with emergencies and the day-to-day work of serving our residents' needs. I'm convinced that improving our employee retention, their work environment, will ultimately benefit our community most of all. And third, and maybe the most important challenge, is increasing public trust. More than 32 years of law enforcement experience has taught me that wherever you go, public trust is key to ensuring public safety. We need people to be willing to report dangerous crimes, but the trust of the public must be earned. I know that we can and must do a better job to gain the public's trust. Many law-abiding citizens in the community tell me they don't trust us to do the right thing. Some perceive unfair treatment or excessive use of force. Some are concerned about how taxpayer dollars are spent. Some are angry about how officers deal with people with mental illness, homelessness, and other issues. And many people feel they don't have a voice in what's happening in our agency. We need to give officers more tools to deal with special circumstances, such as if someone is impaired with mental health or substance abuse issues. With proper training and sufficient resources, we can make sure that if you call us, you can be confident that we know how to help. I'm experienced in this type of training. For example, I spearheaded a new program which includes crisis intervention training. This program gives officers skills and techniques to de-escalate a situation when dealing with people with mental illnesses or disabilities. Such training makes it safer for the community and safer for the officers by preventing an already stressful situation from escalating. The community needs a voice to build positive relationships and trust with law enforcement. I plan to initiate a collaborative panel to discuss community needs and help identify what's working and what's not. This will include a diverse group of community folks, leaders, and officers so that together we can understand and address the community problems in a non-confrontational, solution-based environment. My vision is to continue to build meaningful, sustainable community relationships. I will take the lead to earn the public's trust through increased officer training, public engagement, and accountability. I'm committed to not just keeping you safe, but making you feel safe whenever sheriff services are needed. Thank you. Excuse me.
Thank you. Lieutenant Olmstead.
Thank you. As sheriff, I'm going to work on the following items and develop plans to implement these. Sorry again. As sheriff, I will implement the following plans and solve several different problems we have. One of our biggest problems is the retention and recruitment of employees within the sheriff's office, specifically with the sworn and the dispatch staff. As of right now, we have over 56 vacancies in the sheriff's office. That's 56 people that can't respond to emergencies. It was 56 less people we had to respond to the debris flow and other emergencies. That's a two-pronged approach. We have to work on retention. We have to improve the morale. We have to minimize the mandatory overtime because people are leaving too early. People are leaving that have several years left, or they're going to new departments because they're tired here and they need to feel that their input is important. By listening to the deputies and the custody deputies and the dispatchers and taking input from them, that will include retention, improve retention. With recruitment, we have these vacancies, but we need to do more for recruiting deputies. We need to do outreach to the schools. We need to recruit from within the county. A lot of times we're recruiting from outside the county, or out-of-county residents are coming in, and then after they get trained, we spend a couple $100,000 on their training, they leave to other agencies, whereby we have to repeat the training and spend another couple $100,000 getting them through where they can be by themselves and work a post. Along with these vacancy rates, we have a huge fatigue problem here. Fatigue in law enforcement causes injuries, causes mistakes, and increases the cost of taxpayer money being spent. It's wasteful. By working on recruitment and retention, we'll be able to minimize the mandatory overtime, which has been going on over 15 years in the jail, and solve some of our other problems, and minimize the cost due to lost time, workers' comp injuries, and also the problems related to when families aren't seeing their spouses. With the overtime issue, we need to address overtime. Some of that will be addressed by increasing staffing. Overtime for the last 5 years, we've been over budgeted in our overtime by $4.5 million every year. This is $4.5 million that we can be spending on crisis intervention, mental health, addressing mental health issues, and other equipment and improved maintenance on facilities. We've spent, in the last couple of years, we need to pay attention to what we're paying on overtime. You know, the current sheriff, he authorized overtime for deputies to ride in the Rose Parade. It doesn't help the community here. We hosted a state sheriff's conference, which cost us in staff time and overtime over $120,000, and took 2 years to plan and took staff time away from addressing problems within the department. Another issue, we need to work on employee wellness. Like I said, with the tired deputies and custody deputies, we're having injuries and other problems, and people are not wanting to work here. We need to develop an employee wellness program that will help them both physically and mentally. To this date, we went through one of our biggest disaster in the department's history, the Montecito debris flow, and we still haven't done a critical stress debrief on any of our employees. And the amount of disaster and the amount of tragedy that the deputy saw, it was devastating. And we need to make sure that we're taking care of our employees mentally. We need to do more outreach to UCSB, community colleges, and high schools to develop
employees for the future and educate them on law enforcement. We need to do more outreach to the media and tell them our story. A lot of problems that come between interactions with law enforcement and the community come from people not understanding law enforcement and the procedures and the best practices of law enforcement. I've designed a class, a media academy, that I would implement immediately to invite the media and to talk about use of force and training practices to better explain to the media so they can pass it on to the community on how law enforcement works. We need to improve infrastructure and technology. With the minimum resources we have, and the staff we have available and the staff we've lost, we need to improve on technology to make it easier for detectives to follow up on information. Infrastructure. We have a radio system that is declining very badly. It needs tens of millions of dollars, but we haven't planned for it. We have a jail that needs tens of millions of dollars of improvement, and we're trying to identify how to obtain that funding. Another area, cannabis. Cannabis has been, since the legalization of cannabis growers have run rampant in the county. Right now, we need to ensure that we bring a proper policy to do enforcement and also keep cannabis away from the youths and keep it safe for the community. We need to regionalize and work with law enforcement partners to regionalize law enforcement activities. Right now, all law enforcement agencies are worrying about and suffering from funding issues, but we're also paying duplicate on a lot of different activities. We have to work on task force and improve the ways that we work together. We currently have a crime abatement task force, but no one's in it. None of the agencies have put into it, but we're still paying money to participate in it or to staff the building to pay for phones, but no one's in it. Even our own department, technically on paper we have someone there, but they don't show up there because they work with our narcotics team. We need to work with the other agencies to reorganize the task force and add additional task force to make it safer for the entire community as a whole and make it financially better for the community. We need to develop a strategic plan. In 12 years, we haven't had a strategic plan. Part of that strategic plan will be succession planning. Last week during the budget hearings, our sheriff's office threw a lot of solutions to the Board of Supervisors. And one of the comments that the Board of Supervisors made is, why are we seeing all this now? We should have been working on these solutions for the last 12 years. We need to develop a strategic plan. We also need to take suggestions from the community and work better with the community. The community can add a lot of information and a lot of help to us in developing problem solving. We need to work on crisis intervention and working with mentally ill and people in crisis. All deputies receive crisis intervention training in the academy, along with other training and skills. But those skills are perishable, and we need to improve the training bureau and offer additional classes on crisis intervention and law enforcement tactics to minimize use of force and the use of lethal force. And we need to work on emergency preparedness. Although our agency's done very good in responding to all the fires and the debris flow, we still need to improve and better planning and working with the other agencies. Thank you.
Sheriff Brown.
Thank you. For the next 4 years, the sheriff is going to have many, many challenges. And it's my intention to address those challenges in such a way that we in the sheriff's office will continue to provide the type of exemplary service delivery that we have continued to deliver to the people of Santa Barbara County, in spite of the fact that we have had the most overwhelming financial challenges in our history. Again, I'll repeat to you that we have suffered chronic staffing shortages, 90.5 general fund positions lost since 2007. That is around 15% of our staffing at the high point in 2007. And although we have dealt with that, as I said, without having a single deputy sheriff laid off or custody deputy, we have felt the effects of that for many, many years. We've gained a few positions back, but those positions have all been as a result of specific funding that's been given to us by the state or grants that we've received from the federal government. And they're mission-specific positions that we've gained back. We've lost a lot of our cushion, of our ability to move people around and to be resourceful in different ways whenever we're presented with different challenges. But we have offered the board a way to take care of some of these problems in this latest budget session, in our budget workshop. We presented a plan that will reduce overtime by adding deputy and custody positions in exchange for lowering the overtime budget. And we believe that we could save $3 million in the next 3 to 4 years based on what we call the Santa Maria experiment, where we took the limited staff that we have now and we upstaffed Santa Maria, which is the station that is responsible for this area. We upstaffed it with a sufficient number of people to see if we could reduce the use of overtime. And that experiment proved to be extremely successful. We got benefits in terms of not only the reduction in overtime cost savings, but in staffing flexibility and enhanced service and safety. And we are optimistic that the board and the CEO will look at that plan positively as we move forward. We certainly do have to fill, and we are in the process of filling our vacancies. But the situation is not quite as dire as my opponents would have you believe. The reality is we do have a high number of vacancies, but we always have a high number of vacancies at this point in time during the year, because March the 28th is the typical cutoff time for people who are going to retire during any given year. And as a result of that, we have had 27 retirements last year, and this year to date we've had 17 retirements. And those retirements are based on cycles of when people came into the organization and when they go out. And the budget ups and downs, the roller coaster that we're dealing with, is not unique to us at the present time. It's happened periodically, nowhere near to the extent that it has been of late, but it has happened in the past that we've had more people hired during certain times and less during others. So it does impact the number of people that leave. We currently have 55 vacancies, but what my opponent did not tell you is that 28 of those vacancies are deputy sheriffs and 13 are custody deputies. The others are professional civilian staff who do not respond in the field or in the jail to emergencies. This follows a trend, unfortunately, which is something that we're seeing in law enforcement. Everybody's having trouble with recruitment and retention. I just want to give you a quick example of that was recently in the news. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, which is significantly larger than our agency, they spent $260 million on overtime last year because they had 1,000 vacancies in their organization. And if you extrapolate the number, and if you look at our numbers compared to their numbers, they spent about twice as much as what we spent in overtime on our overtime budget. Our overtime budget is insufficient, and it is typically made up with salary savings. But the reality is we're in the process of building a new jail, and we're also in the process of hiring tranches of new custody deputies who have to be hired in advance of that jail. And those are the reasons that those new hires, those people have to be trained. And unfortunately, we have minimal staffing in our jail and in our patrol stations, all of which are under stress. But we're not the only ones that are having that problem. Now, you heard it mentioned that we're losing a lot of people to other agencies. And that's really a myth. The reality is that our county, last year, our sheriff's office last year, we lost 13 sworn members of our organization to other agencies, out of a total of 488 sworn members. And our rate of loss that year was 2.6% of our organization. And I was recently in San Bernardino County, and I talked to the sheriff there, and I asked him about his situation with the loss of other deputy sheriffs to other agencies. And he indicated that out of 1,900 deputies that they had lost 58 to other agencies that year. That's a rate of 3%, which is actually higher than what our rate is. We are all competing for recruits in a very crowded and very competitive law enforcement market. It has been tough for law enforcement over the last few years. And I'm sorry to say that fewer people are choosing law enforcement as a career now than they were in the past. So we have to get smarter. We have to focus on getting those people into our organization. And we have to do it by doing different things and thinking outside the box. And we're doing that. We just established a collateral recruitment team where we are taking people from throughout the organization and on a collateral basis, having them be a recruiting team that goes out to different organizations, to different community colleges, to schools, to military bases, to tell them about our agency and throwing the net further and wider. And we've developed a feeder system. We have an Explorer program that exposes young people to law enforcement and gives them the insight to law enforcement as a profession. And a number of them have come on board and become sheriff's deputies or custody deputies with our organization. Now, in the next few years, the new sheriff is going to have a lot of responsibility with respect to the new jail. We're building this new Northern Branch jail, which has been desperately needed to relieve overcrowding in our antiquated old jail, in our main jail in the South County. And I'm pleased to say that that new jail that we're going to get is going to be a state-of-the-art custody facility right here in the Santa Maria Valley. And it's going to result in improved conditions for inmates and for staff alike at both the new jail and the old jail. It'll have expanded programming, which will allow for rehabilitation, recovery, and education treatment. There'll be basic adult education. We'll team up with Allen Hancock College, with vocational entities like the plumbers and pipe fitters. And our goal will be to revitalize lives, turn destructive people into productive people, and reduce recidivism. And I want to just talk briefly about mental health, because the mental health issues are very, very important.
I'm positive there's going to be mental health questions coming up. So thank you very much, all three of our candidates. Our break is going to start now. So just as a reminder, there are cards. So hopefully some of you that are interested in turning in a question, if you have it now, you can bring it on up to the podium. If you are still thinking about it, you have a few minutes. And then anybody you see with the league button, you can hand them your question. Do remember that we will try to get to as many questions as we can, but we'll try to hit all of the topics that come up. So thank you, and we'll see you in about 15 minutes. Thank you.